This is Rising from the Shadows. What would your life look like if you stopped second-guessing yourself, stopped playing small, and finally broke free from the cycles that have kept you stuck? Well, that's what the Ignite Momentum Practicum is all about. It's a 6-week transformational coaching experience designed to help you break through people-pleasing, self-doubt, and codependency once and for all. And here's the best part. You get to choose your path. You can matriculate through the one-on-one accelerator. It's private, high-touch coaching, you and me one-on-one. Weekly breakthrough calls, a custom action plan, deep mindset work, and real-time support to help you reclaim your power and rebuild your confidence. Option 2 is the group intensive. This is where transformation meets community. Weekly live sessions with a cohort of like-minded individuals, hot seat coaching, Q&A, bonus trainings, and a space where you're truly seen and supported without judgment. So whether you want personalized guidance or collective energy, the Ignite Momentum Practicum gives you the tools, structure, and support to stop circling the same patterns and start building unstoppable momentum. Ready to take the next step? Schedule your momentum call now at ignitingmomentum.co. That's ignitingmomentum.co. You'll find all the details there. Welcome back to Rising from the Shadows, the podcast where we are embarking on a journey of healing from trauma, reclaiming power, and thriving beyond the shadows of our past. I'm your host, Marlon Wesh, and today I'm thrilled to bring you another powerful conversation. My guest today is Samantha Saunders. Samantha is a licensed therapist, authentic relationship expert, and coach, helping high-achieving women of color heal from toxic patterns, reconnect with themselves, and create relationships rooted in emotional safety and self-trust. With advanced training in trauma healing modalities like EMDR, IFS, and brain spotting, Samantha brings a soulful yet practical lens to what it means to feel safe in your own body and in love. Her insights have been featured in Essence, Mind, Body, Green, and Authority magazine, and she's the host of the Beyond You podcast. Samantha, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
My pleasure. I'm excited for you to be here. I'd like to jump in so we can get a little sense of who you are and open the door for the telling of your story. Can you share a little bit about who you are today, what journey brought you to where you are, and where do you aspire to be in the future?
Absolutely. So it started from my previous marriage where it was definitely a unhealthy kind of narcissistic toxic relationship, and I find myself feeling just stuck, like I had no way out. I think the narratives of whether being the good girl, the religious narratives that were coming up that made it so like just feeling trapped within what was happening, the idea of what marriage was, and all that carries, and I can imagine with men as well. But it was a lot on me, just putting the pressure and just being the first one to be able to get divorced in my family and having to make right having to make that decision. I don't think we realize on how much power it takes to do that, and just being in the unknown. And but I noticed that there are friends I have who also deal with the same thing but chose to stay, right? And so I wanted to be able to give the space to be able to know on how to do it, even when it was messy and I didn't understand. And in the healing process, to know, okay, this is what I had to do. And there's spaces where you can feel safe within your relationship, and then what to look out for, where it was emotional unavailability. What are things that I missed beforehand that I just kind of just looked over, in which I know a lot of people resonate with. And so the person just am now, and being able to be in a space for being at peace, and feeling that also healing and being at peace in relationships as well can be feel messy as well, but the difference between the two, right? And so having to do that, and I hope to continue to be able to just continue to teach thousands, just professionals of just, people of color as well, but I am just really passionate about being able to assist, because I know how hard it is and people keeping them stuck because of things that have happened within the past. So I want to be able to make a just push past those limits and be able to have authentic relationship and just who you are, not base things off of what has happened to
Mm.
you.
Thanks for sharing that. Based off you saying, there are so
Absolutely.
many things we could touch on.
Right.
Um, I'd like to touch on the general concept of obligation. You
Mm,
mentioned religious obligation, marital obligation.
yes.
There's societal obligation. Um,
Oh yeah.
in case you haven't noticed, you're a Black woman, and there is
Hmm.
like definitely the societal obligation of putting up with, because that's
Right.
your special skill, right? Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
as a Black man navigating, trying to be the first in my family to have a healthy marriage where I was present for my children, where I was emotionally
Hmm.
available for my spouse, where
Hmm.
I wasn't the fun dad. Like, I changed the diapers, I cooked the meals, I was supportive, and all of that. And then to decide one day that, well, it wasn't just one day, but to ultimately come to the conclusion, it was, um, I I couldn't save anyone, and trying to was I was losing
Yeah.
myself. Can you talk about kind of the cross section of obligations between all? I mean, all these are different, like cultural things, like religious culture. Like, can you
Right.
talk about how obligation weighs us, and what's the difference between obligation, responsibility?
That's such a good point, because when you feel obligated for something, it just feels heavy, right? Because it's not something that was based off from what we decided. It's based off what is socially acceptable, right? And that could be in different things, whether it's in the religious practice or whether it's just society or even sometimes culturally, just being in that, what I call it, like struggle
Hmm.
love era,
Hmm.
right? Where you just in the same house, you do what you do, I do what I do, and just kind of, and we didn't realize how we had to do that just back then because of what was going on,
Yeah.
right? Like, we needed two people to work together to be able to get out of certain
Yeah.
situations, and we still found ourselves operating in that space where we're not really showing love and care within the home, but more of this is what you're supposed to do. And so there's a lot of things that happen. And so I'm noticing is that when things are happening based off a checklist,
Mm.
right? I call this checklist as, okay, getting married, check. Okay, that supposed to be 6 feet, or woman should look like this, or it's this
Hmm.
checklist that we have. And so we're not really operating on who we are, and then we're wondering on what's happening,
Yeah.
right? Because you're not operating on the base of this is who I am, who can add to me. It's more so of, okay, got the wife, I got the husband check, but it's not really that connection or compatibility there. It was just more things of this is what you're supposed to do. And so it doesn't feel genuine. I think when we know that something is from us, our outside matches our
Yeah.
inside, right? And so with that, it just feels this genuine, authentic space where, okay, this is where I want to be, where a lot of times where you don't feel right on the inside about it, but on the outside it looks
Mm.
good, right? It's more about, a lot of times it's more about the image, depending on
Yeah.
where the family is, different things like that. And so we just have to really keep that in mind in all these different aspects, especially in the religious space, like what it looks like. And I'm supposed to meet someone in the church or
Yeah.
different things like that. And it's like, it might not be. A lot of times we're operating on how it was versus how it is now. And so
Yeah.
that's really like to be able to just hone in
Yeah.
on of just being, we have to really kind of know you, right? Especially after those types of unhealthy relationships that we've definitely been
Yeah,
through.
that's definitely poignant for me, because I grew up in an extremely religious household. I would say that I'm spiritual and I have
Yeah,
faith of something someone has always taken care of me, but I don't subscribe to an actual domination or what have you.
absolutely.
I reflect oftentimes how easier it would be my process of healing and breaking away from a toxic relationship if I was deeply religious. Because I would have
Mm,
had a built-in community. After I lost my entire community,
mhm,
I could have, maybe found a new church to attend to.
mm,
Um, my desire to be with someone that matches me culturally and on top of emotionally and all of that, I found it difficult because of how conservative so many uh, people are within religious settings,
oh my goodness. Yes.
and how that just drives. And I mean, and it goes beyond like the cultural part, and then also the religious. And it's like yesterday, I just came from a Juneteenth celebration, and it was the Howard
Mhm,
University Gospel Choir. They were here in Boston, and I
mhm,
love gospel. I love music. I think gospel
mhm,
is one of the most underappreciated styles of music. I mean, it's highly complex. Like anything we
mhm.
have in, the four-part harmony. I could go on and on. I think it's very important
Right.
to our history of music, and I love gospel. I will always go listen to gospel,
Mhm,
and it was just so great in being in that environment, but knowing like all these people are people of like certain religious faith, and that's like one thing that will like separate me from fully being
mhm.
immersed in the culture. I think that's so interesting. So when you said that, the idea of like maybe the person you were supposed to be was in the church and actually maybe it's not, and can you talk to a lot of people, to the people that look like me and that come from religious
Yeah.
backgrounds that very very much want to keep their blackness, very much want to keep that part of them,
Mm.
but feel um, that their spirituality or lack of spirituality keeps them out.
Oh, this is such a good point. I've been hearing this a lot lately. Just even identity as just being black and just with growing up and childhood and different religious aspects, different things like that. And I think that when we are not operating in a space of, okay, what everyone thinks how we should be versus just who we are, I think it makes such a big difference with that because you're able to fully be able to be just yourself. So what does it look but I know it can be really tricky,
Hmm.
right? Because if you say something that is not with the community, it just kind of shuts you
Yeah.
out and that is it. And I invite people to be open about not necessarily what the church necessarily tells you, but what you feel. So I've had some just churches who really push fear on a lot of
Yeah.
people, right? If this happens, the storm is
Hmm.
coming, different things like that. And so it's not saying that I believe things don't happen, but I think when we are telling ourselves these things, even comments such as, you know, you're worthy, but I'm not worthy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We're telling ourselves these things, and it makes it seem like we have no power over our lives. And then we're kind of praying about a relation to different things, which can happen. But the work is like knowing that God is with you at all times, right? And so when I say that, not everyone always gets it from the
Yeah.
church, right? And I think when you align with just who you are outside of people tells you, which is a fine line, right?
Hmm.
Who am I without everyone telling me who I should be? Right? And really finding out what that is and who that is without the church telling you they're supposed to be this or about someone telling you, just allowing yourself to try new things and
Hmm.
explore. Understand that when you're in your authentic self, anyway, if that is something that you believe that there is a, whether there is a higher power, universe, whatever the case is, I think it's understanding that does it align with you? Because yes, we can be able to say these different things, but there are also people who are, like you're saying, very conservative that if you don't do things a certain way on how the church tells them what to do, then
You no
they
longer
count you
deserve
out or
the
they think they
community,
can,
the love, the
right.
respect.
You
Yeah.
don't deserve exactly. And so really allowing yourself, but to self the based on the values, right? Of like, okay, the love, right? So you want to show love towards people, whether that's to patients, but definitely have a limit when it comes to the patience piece because we want to make sure that we have a limit for limit as far as like not overly forgive,
Hmm.
where we feel like we have to endure so much
Yeah.
hurt from another person. So it's allowing yourself to be able to see on who am I without these other roles that people tell me I should play,
Yeah.
right? Without being like the good with the good guy, the girl, having your
Yeah.
boundaries, right, with things, being able to explore just like what you and genuinely like now people tell you to is going to allow yourself to meet people who are also really sure about themselves so they can add on to
Mm.
you.
That's so profound. I think yesterday or the day before. Are you familiar with the comedian Kevin on stage? Yeah.
Yes.
So he
Hmm.
was doing. I was watching one of his videos. He was doing a performance with another comedian, and they were doing a worship song. And the parody was that he was just like singing the lyrics. Like the music sounds great, but the lyrics is like, "I am awful," of like and everything
Yes.
like that. You talk a lot about finding safety in our body, and
Yeah.
for those of us that grew up in a situation in an environment where uh, the safety was never supposed to be in your body; it was outside of you, and you had to tap into that.
Whew.
How does one start to deconstruct the power is outside of you for life, happiness, safety, love, and that it's actually inside of you that you can tap into, decide who you share that with and who you withhold that from.
Mm. Um, yeah, okay. So that's a definitely a great question of just making sure that we know that if God is already just within us, He's always with us, right? And I know when people say they tap outside of themselves, it's kind of it's making them disconnected from their body, right? And so understand that God is, which is so beautiful. I love this word, but God made us, like God made our bodies to operate in a certain way, to do certain things. And so the beautiful part about it is that our body will tell you the truth before your mind does,
Ain't that the
right? And
truth?
so when that happens, when you are feeling anxious about something, it's telling, like God made it where in case your mind will tell you something different, your body will tell you something, I want something to change, something doesn't feel right. Right. And so we have to see exactly, okay, what does I want to change? But what happens is our mind is the one that kind of makes us just be confused about it or think that something is wrong with us. And a lot of times we label ourselves, which I'm not saying is not true. We label ourselves with having anxiety or different
Hmm.
things without
Hmm.
understanding on, okay, what is it trying to tell you? Right. So if you're in a relationship space, but when you're with a person, you notice that you feel smaller, or you can't be able to be your expansive self. You have to try to shrink yourself to things. It's your body telling you that they don't like
Yeah.
it, right? They don't like your body and your mind are connected. And I know there has been talks about it, but we don't see exactly important it is, right? So when you're angry, you want something to stop.
Yeah.
If you're anxious because you want something to change, if you're sad, it's because something really matters to
Mm.
you. There's nothing that's wrong with you. It's just allowing yourself to be connected to it. So the first step in doing that is when something is feeling within your body, I invite you to get curious on what that is, right? And what am I feeling right now? Am I feeling overwhelmed? Okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed because what? Like putting words to
Yeah.
it, putting feeling words to it exactly what that is to see exactly, okay, is it something that's in your control, not in your control, right? But I know it can be practice in doing
Mhm.
this because a lot of times you always want the answers right now for everything. And a lot of times you don't have the answers at that moment, but allowing yourself to be more self aware of just when your body is telling you, okay, this is not it. And we have to go through some moments and some things to be able to listen to what's saying. So, for example, when you're around a certain person, if your body still it feels like just anxious and you're thinking it's butterflies, if your body wouldn't do
Yeah.
butterflies if it felt that it would feel at
Yeah.
peace, right? So a lot of people think the fireworks and the butterflies means it's supposed to be
No.
no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your body's like, no, I don't want to do this. Because when you're in like a healthy relationship space, it's going to feel like a warm fireplace. It's
Mm.
just going to feel at peace. Yeah. And so we want to be able to kind of listen to what our bodies are telling us and really pay attention. And sometimes we have to go through those
Yeah.
mistakes of making a decision but notice on when you are meet with someone that gives you fireworks and butterflies, it starts abruptly and ends very abruptly
Mhm. Mhm.
every time.
Mhm.
So we really got to pay attention to that.
God, uh, I need to hear that again. If I'm angry, I want something to stop. If I'm
Right.
if I'm
And
anxious,
if you're
something
anxious,
matters to
you want
me.
it to
Oh, you want
change.
something to
Right.
change.
You want something to change. And when you're sad, it's because it really matters to you, because pain is just
Yeah.
information.
Wow.
It's information that something was really matters to us, and that's why it's
Yeah.
painful.
That's very profound. I to the you know, you were saying about like anxiety, not that people don't have anxiety.
Right.
I thought I was anxiously attached for so long, and I like, I just need to have to just trust whatever. And it's like, no, I'm not anxiously attached. You are not doing the things that somebody
Right.
should do in a relationship. There is no reassurance.
Right.
There is no care. Like that's, I'm not anxiously attached. I'm not attached.
Hmm.
I'm just not connected.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and in my experience, that's been something that I struggled with so much. I was talking to somebody earlier about, I thought that not that I didn't, but I was so focused on
Hmm.
all the things that I needed to heal about myself. I approached all interactions as there was something in me that needed fixing and the other person was okay.
Mm.
Therefore, any feelings I had in my body was because, you know, you're feeling jealous because you feel you're not good enough, blah, blah, blah. Those all things may be true, but the fact of the matter is, you know, I was getting mixed signals about things and trying to figure out why this was incongruent and looking at it through the lens of, because there's something wrong with me that I need to fix.
Right.
How do you go about um, rebuilding that intuition, that trust in
Mm.
yourself, that you're not crazy, someone or this situation isn't giving you what you need? There may be another situation that might be good enough for someone else, but for you, like, it's not good enough and you can walk away.
It's wild because people who are anxiously attached, and I was one of those people too, with certain people it would only come out, but with
Right.
others it wouldn't. It was like, how am I anxiously attached? And it makes it really confusing because we feel as though when we are getting inconsistency, we should be okay with it, right? We
Mhm.
try to make it where we have to
People
be, all
aren't
of a sudden we minimize our
perfect.
needs.
Yeah.
Right. We tell ourselves these things, and that's not the case. It's the person who it is, because usually the avoidant person looks so, I guess, secure
Mhm.
about, okay, no, you're just too, you're just doing too much. It makes you feel like something is wrong with you because on how they're saying it, where the anxious person looks like, no, I'm not. Like, no, I just want to be close to you. Right. And but understand that that's why we invite people, even in the dating spaces, to be able to get to know more people.
Mhm.
That's what it's
That is
for.
so
The dating
hard.
pro
That is so hard. Like the idea of like going on multiple dates with different people, it's just like not
Yeah,
natural for me. Uh,
I get it.
but I
I get
get the
it.
reason why you should, but it's just,
Right. I get it. But the thing about it, it's because you need something to compare it
Mhm.
to. Understand that when you are just talking to one person in the beginning, you automatically, especially just if it's, I guess women and men, right? You automatically act like you're in a
Yeah,
relationship.
yeah,
And nothing is being asked or
yeah.
said. You automatically go into that because it you go into relationship space with that one person. And I get it, right? If you find someone that you connect with and it's great, great, but I think of nothing to compare it to, even if you are in spaces where you're dating this one person and you're like, I'm not sure, and you go to the next person. Like, allowing yourself to meet
Mhm.
people because you're allowed to be able to compare. If one person was, okay, this, I don't know, in this sense, this person cooks and is great and talks to me every day, but this other person is, cooks as well, but then they only talk to me sometimes, like maybe once a night, and it's just this really boring conversation. If I only talk with that person, I would probably make it work with that person. Like, oh,
Mm.
just call me more and do this things with me, versus seeing that, oh, well, okay, this person, I don't feel this way. I feel just more confident with this person and I feel just more at ease. So I'll choose this person. This feels more good for me. You have nothing to compare
Mhm,
it to.
mhm.
You automatically would have been trying to make leaps and bounds to make it
Yeah.
work and being like, call me more, and there's something wrong with you, instead of realizing that it's just a person and that's not how they
Mhm.
operate. Right? They don't and I think honoring that there's people that are going to be
Yeah,
different.
yeah.
and you're allowed to see and just work stream what's not. That's what the dating space is about.
Yeah. I definitely a struggle. Definitely, definitely a struggle. Um, we both come from toxic relationships and had to
Yeah.
rebuild ourselves. How do you move from the burnout of that? Because you mentioned something earlier about things that um, look right on the outside but don't feel right on the inside. For me, there
Mm,
was like real physiological changes. I took a
mhm,
photo of myself in one of the toughest moments of that relationship.
mm,
Um, and then I took a photo about 2 years later, and I was shocked at what I saw. Um,
yeah.
I remember looking in the mirror after coming to the decision that I wanted a divorce. I was washing my hands
Mm,
and I looked up and I tell the story. I recognized my face for the first time in like 7 years. And
mm.
it's not like I didn't, I mean, I
Wow.
shave every day. Like, I
I
look
get
at
that.
myself in the mirror, but there I saw my eyes and then I started crying. It's like, and I'm saying like hi to the image in the mirror. And I didn't realize the toll that it took on me.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and the burnout was real. The chronic fatigue, the being able to show up for my children when they were right in front of me, but when they're at their mother's house, I'm like catatonic on the bed. Like it's real. How do you get out of it?
Yeah.
Is it something you just need to let your body go through? What's the
Yeah.
process of healing through
I
that?
went through the
Yeah,
same. I know it is a process of trying to figure out who am I without the person being here anymore. Right? And that in any grief process, that's one is the hardest part is who am I without this person here? Right? And so when you are in a space of doing it, you will have to go through a journey because understand that your body has to detox, right? That cortisol, like the stress that you were enduring, or anybody that's enduring, the trying to figure out, oh, okay, I'm not in that space anymore, but sometimes you still operate
yeah.
like you were in that space and the people you meet afterwards and trying to, okay, I don't have to do that anymore. It's a lot that you have to kind of figure out afterwards. And so, and then even after the relationship, I know this happened to you, but I know for me, I kept meeting people that were kind of slightly like a lighter version of
Yes,
it. And so
yes, yes.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm, right. So a slighter, lighter version, and then you're having to be, to say something, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you still find yourself in that situation, but then you get out, or,
Hmm.
faster. Right.
Yes,
So
yes.
it's a process with that, right? And so honoring the process and understanding like each time you go through it, you're seeing more and more. I'm like, okay, I know I don't like that. Okay, but I do like that. But I want you to see exactly how you
Hmm.
feel, right? And what the person is doing. Okay, I don't like on how this person called me this or how they got mad about that.
Hmm.
No, that doesn't feel comfortable. Like
That's
you
not my
having to
style of
do a lot of
humor.
self-reflection. Right. Right. And so really like honoring and that's you versus trying to, oh, well, maybe there's something wrong with me, or maybe no, maybe I can't joke around. Maybe they're
Right.
insulting you in some way, but saying it's a joke. Yeah, I think when you're finding yourself questioning yourself, I get it. It's kind of like, wait, what? What's wrong with me? That's not the person for you, because the person for you would just absolutely love and exactly what you're saying and just who you are.
Um, I'm curious about your thoughts of this. I have a philosophy for people like myself who have chronically questioned or thought that there was something wrong with them. I
Mhm.
now like I my first assumption, and I have to consciously do it, but my first assumption is there's something wrong with the other person because
Yeah.
of my tendency to think it's always wrong about me. Like I had to go to
Mhm.
that extreme. It's like ain't nothing wrong about me. There must be something wrong about them. And it sounds crazy to
Right.
say, like,
It
but
doesn't.
it's really helped me work through the anxiety of thinking, trying to decode the situation. Um, what are your thoughts about that? Is that healthy?
So what I'm saying, so it's a couple things here, sir. So when that is happening, yes, I get it because going extreme to something wrong with this person. But what happens is when you go into future relationships and it starts getting closer, a lot of times what I hear is that you'll find different
Yeah.
things to Oh, well, the person doesn't work out like I do, or
I don't like
oh,
their big
why are
toe.
they doing that? Right. Right? You'll find different things to detach to protect yourself, right? What I find happens. So because we don't want to get hurt again, and so we have different what I call parts of ourselves, like our
Hmm.
protectors of ourselves to take a look out to see, okay, what is wrong with this person, right? But I think it's trusting your body and your mind to know that if something doesn't feel right or someone is saying something to you that is not okay, trust that you're going to know
Hmm.
exactly what to do in that time, right? In that trusting yourself process. You asked me before, it's going to be following through what you say you're going to do, right? I think a lot of times we worry about what someone else is doing, and it's not that. You have to be able to trust yourself. And when I say that, because people worry about, like, what if someone cheats on me or what if someone does
Yeah.
that? It doesn't matter what they do. It does not matter what they do. And it took me so long to remember that or to figure that out. It's because if I trust myself, I know that if someone does something that isn't aligned with me, if they have coping skills that lead to whether being infidelity or hurting in some way it's just not going to
Yeah.
fly, right?
If this podcast speaks to you, if you're on the path of healing, reclaiming your voice, or just trying to piece together who you really are after surviving the unthinkable, I want to invite you into a space where you don't have to do it alone. Join our Facebook group created for survivors, cycle breakers, and people rebuilding themselves from the inside out. In there, we go deeper. Weekly prompts, live streams, raw conversations, and a whole lot of people who just get it. No pretending, no pressure, just truth, growth, and community. Search Rising from the Shadows, The Path to Reclaiming You on Facebook, or hit the link in the show notes to join the community.
It's just not going to be okay for me. So I can trust to know that I will say, no, I don't like that. And no, it's not work for me. And I'm fine with that. But if I trust myself to follow up, then it's no issue. What happens is we are getting where we stay longer than required. And then we question ourselves exactly of, well, maybe it's me or different thing. No, you just stayed longer than you were supposed to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if I left the first time and someone cheated, left the first time, I wouldn't think about it. It would just be that
Right.
person's issue.
Right.
It wouldn't be my issue.
Right.
But if I stayed longer, even after I felt the feeling of no, I know I can't do what I love, care about this person, I feel like both can be true, right? That I can really care and miss somebody, but also know on what the person showed me and what they're doing, it doesn't work for
Yeah.
me, right? And I feel like we have to choose one or the other.
Yeah. And the longer you stay, it's like another level of shame that builds up for something entirely
Right.
different. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It is another level of a shame that happens, and then you start questioning on whether you can be able to decide because you decided to stay. Know that if you speak up on what you don't like, if they start to minimize and what you're saying you don't like, then okay, then that shows on now you have no room to really share your
Hmm.
emotions with something because you're not, like you were talking about before, you're not getting the reassurance. There's nothing wrong with getting reassurance, right? So if I know my, partner and how he feels about something and it's something where he needs reassurance from, I can hear the fact, okay, because he's been hurt before and vice versa with me, oh, they need to know that I'm
Hmm.
here,
Hmm.
so I'm here, I'm not going anywhere, I'm here. But I think different spaces where someone that is healthy is going to be able to do that with no issue.
Right.
They're not going to question you about it. They're going to be like,
Oh my
oh,
God.
okay, no,
Of
no
course.
problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
Exactly.
phrase you said, trust yourself in that time. I remember I was talking to someone earlier today, and I was talking about when I uh, came to terms that I was in a narcissistic relationship.
Yeah.
I did what probably most people do. I mean, I watched all of the videos, I was reading the articles and stuff
Hmm.
like that. I mean, you ain't never gonna get me again.
Right.
Um, and then what I realized was I was trying to control me ever coming being in contact or in relationship with someone that
Yeah.
showed narcissistic traits versus me being like, if someone shows me those traits, deuces. Like, and that was the
Right.
difference. I still did not have trust that I would do what was, right for me versus I needed
Right.
to be convinced of this diagnosis. So then I'm justified in leaving. Um,
Mhm.
can you talk a little bit about the difference between? um, self trust and just more knowledge?
Mm. So knowledge, I think it's like what we're, because I did the same thing, right? When I was like looking up
Mhm.
all the things of, narcissistic relationship and now like, oh, he did it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what he did
yeah.
too, right? And going with that. And so I think it's okay to be able to get knowledge, but at the end of the day, it's going to be about the trust, the limits that you have, right? And so even when it comes to things like I think I talked about like overly forgiving, right? Having a limit in what someone does. For example, in a previous dating experience, every time there was a disagreement, right, it would be like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
leaving. I'm I'm out of here. I'm not doing
No,
this.
baby,
And
stay.
then would right, and then would calm down, would try to come back. I give it 3 times, right? And what that
That's
looks like
generous.
is okay, they said the first time, and then I was like, do not say that to me because I will take it seriously and I will not be here. And then he got upset again. They did it again. And so I was like, no, that if this happens again, I'm leaving. And so they did it again and I left. I didn't care on how much she cared or anything. I knew that this was a pattern. If I tell somebody one time not to do something and that's mean they're making an active choice to
Hmm.
do it, then I have the limit and people can choose whatever limit works for them. I chose 3 for me. It could be 1, it could be 3, it could be 10. Some people it's 20.
Mm.
Right? But having a limit and sticking to it
Yeah.
is really what's going to matter. It's going to be, but again, it's more about trusting yourself piece. To trust myself to know that if I'm without I'm going to be fine, right? With or without this person, I'm going to be okay
Hmm.
because I want something that adds more stress to me. So even with that, or someone who is just looking at the good of the person, forgetting the bad, right? When someone is sitting there and being nice to you at this moment in time, because this is the week they're nice, and next week they're calling you out your name,
Hmm.
you just can't bypass that someone just called you out your name,
Yeah.
right? They thought that this was okay. And so you got to have your limit when it comes to those things and realize you have to take a person as a whole. You can't pick and choose what you like and leave the rest. You can't do that,
Yeah.
right? So really paying attention on how we're contributing to it or we're involving so much in someone's story. Like a lot of times, oh, someone went through this whole trauma experience growing up and their mom left him and daddy wasn't there. And so whatever it is, someone can have the worst possible trauma history ever, but they also have the same resources
Right.
and they're choosing
Right.
not to do it. Whether that's therapy or writing it out or reading books, they're choosing to actively stay in this space. And that is on them, but it's not you to be able to try to fix on how they feel, or I'm going to be the one to show them
Yeah.
differently, is what tends to
Yeah.
happen, right? We can't do that. You are not someone's emotional punching bag because they won't deal with their own stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it's not often that I'm talking about figuring out relationships after. Um I think it's
Right.
interesting. I'd like to keep talking about it. I'd like
Yeah.
how do you balance seeing worth in someone, um whether it's through attributes they have, or you like the type of work they're involved in, it seems
Mm,
similar to your mission, you like the way they dress, right? Because it's kind of your vibe, you like to do da da da. You see all How do you balance seeing things that you want in your ideal partner, but
mm.
um I guess the emotional part is slower to reveal as ideal? I don't even know if that question makes sense.
I feel like I know what you're
Okay.
going with it. You have to go by someone's character and who they are. Right? And so even with the things that you were naming were mainly things that could be changed, right? I could dress one way today, but as I'm seeing style and I get to know just how you are and learning from you, I might dress something different and someone can go shopping, right? Like, so really, or what are we looking at? We have to really look at someone's character and who they are, right? And so even the work they do, I mean, great about the work they do, but okay, do they align with their work or is it just another job for them?
Mhm.
Right? So really just kind of paying it, and it all goes back to the character of the person. So on how they treat every day on the regular, not just who they treat, just as far as when you go in a restaurant, how do they treat their
Hmm.
family? How do they treat the people around them? Even when they don't care for someone, do they still kind of show up? They decide not to talk to them, which some of the people's choice, but they treat everyone else they do talk to really respectfully. Like what does that look like? Right, paying attention to just how they are in their daily life is what's really going to show you a lot about who the person is versus the work they do and different things. I definitely get when it comes to financially and paying for things. You definitely want to um, be able to travel and explore and do different things. I know that some people want to do that and seeing if that's something they do in their life, or if they talk about them doing it, do they actually make moves to doing it, or is it something? It's all these things you have to pay
Hmm.
attention to when it comes to just getting to know the person. And emotional availability is going to be on how they respond to you.
Hmm.
Are they open to talking about emotions, or do they feel more closed off? Are they allow, even when it feels uncomfortable, are they allowing themselves to be vulnerable? Or is it more like, stop with that emotion
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
right? Like, really, can you be yourself with this person?
Yeah. You hear a lot of dating advice, relationship advice about observation. Observe the way they are with their parents, their siblings, their
Mhm.
friends, whatever. There are, and I think increasingly, a subsector of people that are no contact with their family,
Yeah.
may have lost an entire friend group due
Hmm.
to falling out in a toxic relationship. How does that type of relationship advice and just kind of trying to be aware of who that person, how does it fit in a scenario like that when someone has little to no um, social circle because of choices they made for themselves?
Right. You still can be able to get to know who a person is, even if it's not with their families. That's why I know there's people that decide not to talk with their family members, which hearing the stories I hear, rightfully so. And so it's going to be through time. And I know people don't like to go through
Mhm.
time, but it's going to be as you get to know the person and how they show up as far as in those different situations, or how they're treating people, or if they do meet your friends and how they talk to them, or even eventually it's going to come out on who they are and how they even talk to you in certain, when you make a mistake, on how they talk to you, or when you see someone else doing something, are they like talking about, oh, I can't believe this person did that, or are they just like very funny, where they just like making jokes,
Mhm.
about things, and is that aligned with your humor, or you're like, oh no, why are you joking about that? Like, seeing how those things align in the everyday of somebody is going to make a difference as well. Because you're right, like I've been hearing like a lot of just women as well, but men that just don't have the same kind of social circle as other people do, and that's okay. I think it shows on how, but I feel like a lot of men have to be so guarded about things and not really being able to express how they feel, or if what's going on, or feel like they're in it by themselves, because that's what society has pushed.
Mhm.
And so a lot of times I'm hearing that there's like this nuance where women want for the men to be emotional, but then when they are, it feels like, oh, too much. And so it makes it feel like it's not okay. So I'm hearing that as well. And so
I mean, it's the
no,
classic
but I also want men
explanation
to,
how the patriarchy hurts everyone, right? Like,
right. Exactly, exactly. So you want to be able to see, okay, as I share, I do a little bit, right? You don't have everything at once. Maybe it's a story that you said and see how they respond, right? If they're like, oh, I'm so sorry that happened, or they're like, oh, you did that, you're going to get a different feel. So it's not about, but I want you to see when someone's saying something and how your body feels. It feel like, oh, tense, I got to shut down. That means, right, the body's telling you that that's not, I can't be vulnerable with this
mhm,
person. It doesn't feel okay. It doesn't feel right. And that's not for you. You should be able to feel at peace and at ease. And I know it's a difference between minimizing my needs versus it just feels, they said, thank you so much for sharing that, or whatever they said that feels at peace with that. It's like, oh, okay, this is new, right? So you feel uncomfortable, but a little bit more open to share more because how they responded.
mhm.
Right. So really seeing what the difference is with it. Does it feel like a more uncomfortable, this is new and different? Or does it feel like, oh, we need to shut down and minimize and tension? then it's something that you shouldn't be a part of.
Yeah. Let's stay on the topic of vulnerability because for many people, uh, re- uh, um, describe myself as a recovering people pleaser, and
Yeah.
one of the ways that in the past that I have sought connection is through disclosure, um,
Yeah.
early disclosure. If you're listening to this and you've got a story to tell, whether it's your personal story of healing and reclaiming your voice or rising from rock bottom, or you're a professional with powerful insight into trauma, identity, resilience, or transformation, then I want to hear from you. Rising from the Shadows is more than just a podcast. It's a space where truth is honored, power is reclaimed, and stories heal. If you have something to share that could empower others to stop shrinking and start rising, I'd love for you to apply to be a guest on the show. Just head to tellmystory.risingfromtheshadows.com to submit your application. Let's rise together, one voice, one breakthrough, one story at a time. And
Gotcha.
on the flip side of that now, how should one stay open and honest and balance that with paced out vulnerability?
Hmm. So it's, let me try to see it like in a dating aspect of things. So when, let's go for example of you're on just a first date, and when you're sharing, you don't want to share your life's whole life story because you want to see if you're like want to be with the
Hmm.
person before you kind of share those things. So it might be something that's kind of minor, maybe something that you don't like, or food like, oh, I'm not crazy about that
Hmm.
food, or they said they like a certain movie. It's not the movie for me. I'm more like these types of
Hmm.
movies, right? It's something that no matter who heard it, you wouldn't really care who heard it, but you're seeing on how they respond, like, oh, okay, what do you like about that movie?
Hmm.
Right? And they're more open and getting curious versus someone who, oh, you haven't seen this? Oh, I'm gonna take your black card away, and
Mm,
they're talking about you
yeah,
and different
yeah.
things like that, then it might just not align. It makes you feel like because I haven't done something that it makes you feel kind of bad
Hmm.
about myself,
Yeah.
right? And so even in those moments when someone makes that comment and you're saying, I didn't, yeah, that made me kind of uncomfortable. I just haven't seen it,
Hmm.
right? And how they respond, is it something of, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so used to joking like that, right? Or is it more of, oh, I can't even joke with you,
Mm.
right? I can't even joke with you. Why? Really paying attention to how somebody responds shows their character, right? When you put them in an uncomfortable situation and what they do or how they respond with it. But as you get to know someone, even when they ask about your previous relationship, let's say that, and we just were just had differences
Hmm.
in the relationship. You can reveal
Yeah.
exactly what happened until you get to know the person, have a couple dates, and then it might come up again. It's like, oh, okay, this is what
Yeah.
happened. But, oh, okay, right. So you see on how like I'm doing
Yeah.
minimal, vague things, see how they take it,
What do
and
you
then go
say
in
to
detail
people
later.
who like, I hate small talk? I just like to get to,
Oh yeah.
you know, what do you say to those type of people?
The people that have small talk, I definitely get the small talk can be a lot, and also know that people are able to, whether you decide to go straight in, know that some people might get it. You're right. If you're one of those people that like want to go straight into it and have the conversation, know that it doesn't give you room to kind of know the person. It puts your, not, I want to say trauma, it puts your like issues and stuff out front versus them seeing just you
Hmm.
outside of the things that you've been
Yeah.
through, right? And that's the kind of things I talk about, like showing, I can show my authentic self as far as whether it's, whether I know being a therapist and stuff, but like being just at peace and liking certain things, and oh, I like trying new things and adventures and doing different things like that. And I get it feels like small talk, but you're also sharing yourself without getting detail on all the things that have happened to you that made you this. But I think it's taking that emotional availability. You're not putting your emotions on somebody else, right? Because really, being interdependent is like you're still yourself. You're just kind of pouring. You want to pour into another relationship. So, I myself, the person is themselves as well, and then we pouring into their own relationship identity, right? So you're not really losing yourself in it. You're just kind of putting
Yeah.
stuff in it together. So,
I found myself used to being that person that
yeah.
couldn't do the small talk. But what I realized was that because so much of my identity had been wrapped up in survival, that
Mhm.
I had I had ceased to um, enjoy the little things about life. And once I added those
Mm,
things back, it became much easier. I remember I literally made a list of things that Marlon likes. On the top of that
mm,
list, blueberry pancakes. I love blueberry anything, blueberry pancakes, blueberry scones, blueberry
mhm.
muffins. And it was just like a little joy. Like if I go out to a diner, I'm going to order blueberry pancakes. That's what I like,
Yeah.
and just the little things that make me,
Mhm.
and just making that list and starting to do that little by little, it helped tremendously to let go of the narrative, I guess, that I was telling myself that what made Marlon Marlon was what he went through versus that's just a part
Mm,
of me.
right.
Um,
But you made a such important concept there is that you allowed yourself to explore, right? You allowed yourself to explore on the Marlin now, right? And so, and I, same thing, I had a coach tell me years ago, and just writing this huge list of the things that you love, right? And being able to not just say that I love music, the specific type of
mhm,
music do you love, or what do you love about just things that but the thing about the things do you love list, like I heard some people say they love the first cup of coffee in the morning, some people mention they love, you know, fresh clean shaved legs and getting into clean
mhm,
sheets,
mhm.
right? So just most random things, and you're really exploring that, and you have to make a long list of it,
Yeah,
whether a list of a hundred, 200, right, of things that you love. And if you don't have enough on your list, I invite you to
yeah.
explore and see what else is on your list.
What do you say to people who feel like they're behind, right? I just had a birthday. I'm 38.
Mhm.
I um, I I made the decision to change my life at 36, and there was like
Mm.
a lot that I had to catch up about myself because it was 12 years of making someone else or attempting to making someone else happy, and you have less
Mhm.
time for your own happiness. um, what do
Right.
you say to someone like me that is ambitious, is driven, but also recognizes the importance of the healing process, but still is just like itching to be where a 38-year-old person should be?
And what does that look like? I know I would, right?
Yeah.
What does that look like? Does that look like relationship? What
All
does
of
that
it,
look
all of
like
it.
for 30?
Family
Okay.
structure, relationship, career.
Mm.
Used to have a house, now you're renting. Like all of that.
Hmm. I get that. And I think that it sounds more like what society has
The
pushed on
checklist.
how a 38,
Yeah.
right? It sounds like the checklist that if someone's in the exact same situation, would be coming from. And I think it's one of those, if even if exploring that, right? If no one told me exactly how I should be and how would I show up, would it be more so of showing up and do you still want a house because what it's supposed to do, or
I
does
honestly love
someone
not
being
having to mow the lawn on the weekends. I'm not gonna
okay,
lie. I love
right?
not.
I love the maintenance coming in and doing work for me. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So really thinking about on what do I want to do? Like like going back to what he said in the beginning, who am I without someone telling me what I should be? So friends, family, no one had to say, how would I live my life? And really thinking about on what that would look like, because it wouldn't be the same. So when it's like this narrative, and we don't realize, I think I've heard this before, where it's not this. I think we sometimes compare to our other
Mhm.
counterparts, right? Other races, on how they were brought up to be in college, you get
Yeah.
married, you do these different things. But a lot of times we don't realize on how, as far as just Black people in general, we need a space where we need to have, to feel safe in what we're having,
Hmm.
whether financial safety, emotional safety from parents, because we kind of come from a different background. So we need a period where we have safety. So a lot of people who are talking about relationships, a lot of times it's between 35 and 45.
Yeah.
It's not the same because we have this period of time where we have to just feel safe in our
Mm.
space outside of the
Yeah.
household.
Before we go, we started off talking about, the good girl, good boy um, narrative that is placed on us, that we place
Mhm.
on ourselves. It's such a powerful call to
Yeah.
be good and acceptable
Mm.
in your own eyes, in the eyes of
Hmm.
institutions that you feel attached to,
Yeah.
people that you admire. Um, how do you break free from that?
A lot of times when we feel, because when we say good girl, a lot of times we do something that's not considered good, we feel guilty, right? And so with that, it's understanding that guilty is you're putting yourself in a category. I'm good if I do this, I'm bad if I do this. Remove the categories of what's good or bad, right? Remove the categories as just you being. And with that, it's going to be more so figuring out on what that looks like. So with the list that you mentioned beforehand is a perfect way to go about it at first, especially just seeing, okay, what is it that I love now? Making your love list and what I'm in your, doing 100 things, having that list for yourself to be able to figure out exactly what is it that I love. Not someone is telling me to love, but what exactly do I love and finding out what that is and trying to see what that difference is. Okay, we put society aside. What is it that I love and what I enjoy to be able to really be able to hone in on you being you. It's going to be just the main thing. I hope I answer your question.
No, yes, yes.
Okay.
And just so I hear you about like internalizing what, is essentially congruent to you, um, despite what you feel that checklist is out there that you feel you should.
Right. So have your boundaries.
Hmm.
Really pay attention to what you like, what you don't like. Like removing this good or bad, but just you're being you. And I think a lot of times people put in a category, oh, if you don't drink, you're too good,
Hmm.
you're
Hmm.
good. Or if you different things like that versus it's no good or bad. I just don't drink.
Yeah,
Or if I decide to, I mean, yeah, but if it's I just decide to have one drink or whatever it is, it's not a good or bad. It's just what I decide to do. If it works for you, cool. If it doesn't, that's
that's okay
okay.
too. Well, this was a great conversation. Um,
Yes,
if
thank
there's
you.
one lesson you want listeners to take away, what would it be?
I want you to understand that not when it comes to being in a familiar space, maybe with growing up, that it doesn't mean that's like automatically safe, right? To really explore what is it that you kind of want and need outside of what society tells you, and really paying attention on you being you. And it's okay not to know what that looks like yet. And yet is the main word with
Mm.
that, and allowing yourself to be able to fully explore on what that looks like.
Oh, yeah.
So true connection equals emotional
Ooh,
safety.
go ahead. I know our listeners are walking away with so much insight. Where can our listeners connect with you, learn more about your work, or support your mission?
Absolutely. You can be able to find me on TikTok at Moving Beyond You or my website, movingbeyondyou.org. And you could just find me around those places. On Instagram, I have my kind of more personal stuff. It's I am Samantha.a. So it's on there. But I would love for just the support on my podcast, Beyond You podcast as well, where I kind of talk in depth of these things as well.
Awesome. And we'll, of course, put that information in the show notes. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your insights with us today. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this episode of Rising from the Shadows. Remembering healing isn't the absence of shadows, it's learning to thrive in your own light. So rise today, rise tomorrow, rise always, because the shadow doesn't stand a chance. Thank you. Take care. If you're an event organizer, HR leader, or educator looking to bring a powerful voice to your stage, someone who speaks truth, ignites momentum, and empowers your audience to rise above what's held them back, then I want to talk to you. My keynote, Rising from the Shadows, is more than a talk. It's a transformative experience that shows people how to stop shrinking, start healing, and stand fully in their story. I've lived it, I teach it, I walk people through it. So if you're building a lineup of speakers who don't just talk but move people, head over to marlonwesh.com to create something unforgettable for your audience.